Good morning. This is April the 29th, 2023. Ola, it's so good to have you agree to sit down and be interviewed. I know you said when you walked in, you didn't realize she had cameras back there. Your heart dropped. But as I said, just act like we're just having a conversation about your life and about how Fairview and E.S. Brown affected your life. And what would be the difference if you had not had the experiences of Fairview and E.S. Brown, okay? And the people who were connected with it. So we're going to start at the house. You have how many sisters and brothers?
I have 6 sisters and 5 brothers, that is including me. 6 girls and 5 boys.
6 girls and 5 boys. Wonderful. Okay, and where did you all live?
We lived here in Cave Spring,
but you lived in Cave Spring,
but not in the city limits. We was outside of Cave Spring, a little bit before you get into Cave Spring.
Okay. On 411 or on 100?
On 100.
On 100. Okay. So would you all live like just a family unit, or was it a farm?
It's a farm. Lived
on a farm?
Yeah. We had 40 acres, and there was a farm. There was a milk dairy in front of us. It was the Cox Milk Dairy.
Okay.
And we was in the back. We had 40 acres in the back, which we still have.
Wonderful. Now, are you related to Amos?
Amos is my brother.
Oh, wonderful.
My youngest brother.
All right, so y'all still have the home place.
We still have it.
It was owned and operated and farmed by you and your family.
Right. Well, we really didn't say farm. We just had just enough to provide vegetables and chickens and, meat for the family.
Okay.
We didn't have like a farm,
Okay, so you just had food planted, but you didn't do cotton and watermelon, did you do?
Yeah, we did. We didn't do cotton, but we picked cotton for other people.
Okay.
But we did have watermelons, plenty of watermelons. Oh.
Okay, that sounds great. So now did you all inherit that, or were you sharecropping? Do you know?
We inherited from my grandfather, Sherman Montgomery, and his wife. They bought it, but I don't know what year.
Right.
And then it just passed them down.
That's wonderful.
After he died, because
we
lived, our house was on the property.
Okay.
And then my granddaddy lived just up, we call a terrace above us. So that's why we lived most of the time till we left.
What are you all doing with the 40 acres now?
We're not doing anything.
It's just there.
It's just there. Of course,
we got houses on it?
We got one house on it where my grandfather lived. And of course, we goes up. My nephew comes up from Atlanta, and he keeps the grass cut. And then my oldest sister that's living, she keeps flowers and stuff like that planted.
Wait, now what's your oldest sister?
There for just a second.
Lila. Her name's Lila.
Okay.
Lila Gibson.
Okay. All right, so let's go home and let's see what Mom and Dad and how many children again?
It was 11 total.
11 total, wonderful. Now, how many of you are still here?
There's 5 of us. Let's see, let me count. Let's see, me, Georgia, Lila, Bess. There's 4 girls and 1 boy that's living now.
That's precious. That's precious. All right. So, what was life like at home when everybody was home and you were fellowshipping? What would that be like?
Well, life at home. Well, it was just like, well, living in the country. We had a 3-room house, and
now that would account for some interesting living. With 11 people in 3 rooms.
But it was like sections of children. The first 6, I say, was already up and moved out.
Okay.
Was gone, and then that was really that I don't remember all of us being there together. And but 6 of them end up grown, moving away, and then there was 5 was still left
Okay.
left there. Yeah. So we all slept 3 and 4 to a bed, you know.
That's interesting. So the morning, let's go home and then let's come to school. So what was the morning like?
The mornings,
For everybody getting up, getting out, you all had to catch the bus, didn't
we had to
you?
catch the bus, right?
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. We would take a bath at night in a tub.
Okay.
And we were first to see who's gonna get into it first, cause we used the same water. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then the next morning we would get up and get ready for school, and we had to walk about. I think for the first 2 years that I was in school, we walked maybe about a half a mile because we lived about a mile and a half from the highway.
Okay.
And so for a while the bus would come down and pick us up, but then the road got so bad that the bus couldn't get down in there, so we had to end up walking up to the road to catch the school bus.
Okay.
And so
Was that a journey to try to make it to that road
it was
every morning?
It was a journey. It was a
Okay.
journey because sometimes sometimes the bus would break down, and we'd be up there waiting on the bus.
Okay, in the cold.
In the cold. It could be rain, it could be sleet, it could be snow, you know.
Right.
We'd be waiting on the bus, you know. And it was, but we were there. I mean, you know, we didn't lay out of school, you know what I mean. I mean, we was glad to get out of the house and head up the road to go to school because we was
what
looking.
What about Mom and Dad's idea and attitude about education?
Well, my mother died.
I don't want to know how far they went because we know that was probably not very far. But
right.
What attitude did they have? What did they impress upon the children about education?
Well, for the two older than me, my mother expressed, you know, y'all are going to school. You're going to school, because for a while I didn't want to go. Because when we rode the bus driver, he smoked cigars, and she made me sit right behind him.
Okay.
And when I got to school, I was just plain dizzy.
I'm sorry.
You know, from the smell of the cigar. And I would try to tell her. She said, "No, you're gonna sit right there on that seat. You know, behind." It was my uncle that drove the bus, and but anyway, she was determined that we was gonna go to school. And of course, then she passed when I was 10 years old. My mother died, and then there was 3 under me. And of course, my daddy was working on the farm and all, but he made sure we got up and catch the bus and all of that. You know, he didn't let us just linger around. You know, the younger ones. You know, because as I said, the older one was already up and gone, working.
Right.
You know, but he made sure we was out of there going to school.
Okay, come on to school then, get off that bus and let's come to school. And what was a typical school day like for you?
Well, typical school day, I could see myself, you know, running up those. Once I hit that, run off those steps, I was headed up, you know, to my room.
Right.
And especially like in the wintertime. You know, because that was the warmest room that we had. We had that little pot-belly stove, and my job was to keep the coal in there, you know, and make sure, you know, it stayed warm. So I was looking forward to getting up there and make sure it was warm and make sure we had coal in the little pail there so I could, you know, keep it. Right.
Great. So they gave you that as a responsibility. Why not a young fella? Why not a boy?
Because I wanted to do it.
Okay.
Because it's something I wanted to do. I always said, let me do it, you know, because I was kind of hyper, you know.
Is that why Mama made you sit behind the bus driver?
Probably so.
Oh.
Probably so. Because I was tomboyish when I was growing up.
All right, so you talked about running up the hill to the school. Why would you run? Because you wanted to get into a warm place, or you just wanted to run?
I just wanted to run.
Okay.
I just wanted to run because out there where we lived, you know, those 40 acres, I always roamed the woods all the time. I lived, you know, climbing trees, you know, in the wood, running, whatnot. So anyway, running was just in my feet. And when we left school, when that bell said rang for us to go down the hill, I'd go running. And sometimes some of us fall on the floor of the bus trying to get on the bus. You know, it just a happy run, you know, not.
So you were the only one that had an assigned seat. The other kids could choose their seats.
Right, yeah, I don't know. I had the assigned seat.
I don't know why you were running, because you knew where you had to sit.
I know, I knew what I had to sit, right. I didn't have any problem with, it didn't bother me, the smoking didn't bother me going back home. But just first thing in the mornings, you know, it just made me a little bit, you know, dizzy. But that's why I was glad to run off that bus, you know, to get some fresh air.
Listen, about, you went to Fairview and E.S. Brown?
Fairview and E.S. Brown.
Do you know when you left Fairview and E.S. Brown?
1948 is when I came to Fairview. And I can't remember what year it was we left Fairview and went to E.S. Brown.
Okay. When you left Fairview and moved to E.S. Brown, how many buildings were up here?
If I can remember, I can remember three.
Three?
I can remember three.
Okay, this one was here, this building here.
Right, yes ma'am.
There was a big building right there.
It was, but I can't really remember, you know.
All right, so you had your classes in this building?
In this, I'm trying to think.
Probably that front room, huh?
Yeah, because that's where the stove was, in that front room there. But it was kind of like in the middle of the room instead of like to the wall where it is now. It was kind of in the middle of the room.
That's interesting. Had a stovepipe running to it all.
And then we had the benches. The tables where we sat was running like this way. We didn't have the chairs.
Right.
Just had the table and the chairs around.
This building at that time, was this building where I'm going to call it cafeteria, is this the building where you all ate, where they ate lunch?
You know, I can't really remember. You know.
Okay.
It's.
But do you remember lunchtime?
Oh, I remember lunchtime.
Tell me what happened at lunchtime.
Well, we just round the table eating whatever we had. You know what? Most time we bring out a little sack lunches. Okay. You know, and all, and we just. Suppose I can remember. You know, we just have a little sack lunch.
You don't remember what the school served for lunch? You
no,
what the school served for
I don't. Not at Fairview.
Okay.
But I remember at E.S. Brown.
Okay.
But I don't remember.
You had a big cafeteria at E.S. Brown.
Big cafeteria, yeah.
Okay, but here, I think it was in this building from what someone had said that you would eat. This would be the room that you ate in. Doesn't look like it would be large enough.
I know. I know.
But as you get older, things can get large.
Right, right.
Okay, well, tell me some things you took away from Fairview as an adult now, and you're so happy that you got those things that you were exposed to.
Well, one thing I could kind of say is that the teachers that we had, I mean, they were, like you had parents at home, and the teachers here were like parents too. They were teachers, but they was like a parent too. So if you cried or something other, I mean, they didn't say, get over there and sit down. I mean, they consoled you, you know. And they said, well, what's wrong and whatnot. And then you tell them, you know, then they say, it's going to be okay. And they, you know, kind of hug you. And then the kids would, other children would get up there, they would come around you, you know, and just kind of look at you, you know, and all. And it just made you feel like in a homely environment, you know, where everybody loved each other, you know, everybody cared, you know, and there wasn't no fighting and kicking and pulling, you know what I mean like that. It was just kind of like homely, you know, and all, and it just gave me a feeling of, you know, when I grow up, I want to express some of this that was expressed to me, you know.
And caring and compassion.
Right, loving, caring, and compassion.
Yes.
Right,
so
right.
You got that from the Fairview setting. Now, you graduated from E.S. Brown or Main High?
I graduated from elementary school at E.S. Brown and graduated from Maine High, from high school.
Okay. Well, was there a difference in what you had here at Fairview and E.S. Brown and what you found at Maine?
It was a little bit different.
Okay. In what respect?
In that seemed like we were more jovial in the elementary school. You know, we one thing, let's see, we could here at the elementary school, we could wear dresses or pants, whatever, you know.
Right.
And I was always wore pants, you know, because as I said, I was tomboy. But then when I went to high school, we had to have a dress. And I said, now why do we have to have a dress in high school? But they was developing us in high school, you know, for later on in life, you know. But in elementary school, you know, elementary was preparing us for high school, but yet still we felt more free, right? You know, more free as.
To be your little tomboy.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. So let's say, let's take qualities that you got at home. You've already talked about being compassionate, understanding, loving, and kind, all that. And you were getting that at home, and you also were getting that at school.
Right.
What is it that you see now that is or is not happening in our schools that you wish we could get back to?
I wish we could more closeness, you know, more closeness and more affectionate, you know. It seemed like now, when we were growing up, the clothing that we wore was nice and clean, but now kids the clothes they're wearing, you know, they're looking at the clothing instead of the inner person.
Might be better dressed,
right.
newer clothes. Whereas back during those days, you're saying that you might have to wear the same dress or the same pants twice that week, washed, but twice that week. Right.
Because when if we had holes in our pants then, we would feel a little bit bad. But look at them now, there's holes everywhere, you know, and they're comfortable with it, you know. But we were embarrassed kind of when we were growing up, you know, in that way, you know, so.
So what do you think accounts for how you've been successful and how you think and how positive you are? What do you think happened at Fairview that helps with that?
Fairview gave me a sense of belonging, a sense of caring, and a sense of giving. You know, what they gave to me, you know, I wanted to give back to somebody else.
Okay, Miss Ola, think about your life and think about someone years from now listening to you. What piece of advice would you like to leave for them to hear you say? What piece of advice?
Well, I would like just to say to be yourself and have a conscience for other people. As the golden rule said, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And always respect another person's, that you may not have the same opinion, but respect that person as whatever they, you know, think about. You know, just respect them for that. Let's see what. And one of the main things is just to don't depend upon your own guidance, but depend on the Lord, you know, because if you depend on Him, seek Him, ask Him for guidance, he'll lead you in the right way. But you have to have an open mind.
Great. You know? One last thing we didn't talk about. We do know that in this society there are different people. You have whites and blacks and all other folks. Now, can you recall any relationship that you had with whites in this area or the area where you grew up that was very pleasant, not so pleasant, or whatever?
I've had some that's, well, most of the one that I have grown up, you know, around was pleasant. I had one situation that wasn't too pleasant, but yet and still I didn't let it get the best of me.
Tell us about it.
Well, this is when I was working, a nurse at Florida Medical Center, and I had this patient, and I don't know why, I didn't know who he was, but my coworkers knew who he was. And they gave me this patient. And so I went in his room, and he looked at me, you know, and I said, "Good morning." And I said, "I'm Miss Montgomery," and I said that I'm gonna be your nurse today. And he just looked at me, you know, and all, and I said that, "Could I take your blood pressure?" And he kind of did like that. I said, "Are you hurting or anything?" He said, "No," you know. And so I went out. I said, "I'll be right back," you know. And I said, "Something is wrong." And I said, "I don't want to pressure myself on this patient, you know, but something is wrong." And they said, "He is the president of the Grand Dragon." And I said, "Oh." I said, "Don't worry about it," you know. So I went back in there and I said, you know, and I told him what was going to do, blood pressure, temperature, and all that. And so anyway, he mellowed over, you know. He didn't, and also, and then later on, when we moved him out of there, you know, and he was saying that, "I enjoyed having you as my nurse." I said, "Well, thank you." And then when he moved out to the step-down floor, one of the nurses that went in there, because she was kind of a heavy-built lady, short, and all. I don't know if he was threatened by her or not, but anyway, she couldn't go back in the room. He pushed a table up against the door, you know, and all. I said, "Well, I just thank the Lord for how He gave me the patience, you know, not to let his attitude affect my treating him as a patient, you know." But that's the only problem really that I have had growing up, you know, and in later life. You know, I've had some that, you know, they look at you, but you know, I always just said smile and whatnot. I never, you know, reciprocate, you know, their attitude for mine, you know. I just, and
okay, that's great. Now that was when you grew up out there on 100. You lived on farm?
mm-hmm.
Were there other races out there?
There was only one. They was back towards the highway. They ran the dairy.
Okay. Okay. So you never ever had any encounters with the dairy owners?
Oh no, cause when I got out of school, there was two dairies. There was the Morgan Dairy, and then there was the Cox Dairy. And I worked at both places, cleaning up, you know, in the house, you know. Right. So when I believe it was high school, I would get off at their house, and the Morgan Dairy lady, she gave me a key to the house. And when I would go in, I would make me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, get my glass of milk, and then do whatever chores. Mm-hmm. But they treated me very nice. You know, I didn't have any problem.
So no. For this thing that we have that's not so comfortable now, what advice would you give both sides, whites and blacks? What would you say to them that might help to eliminate some of the friction? Well,
I just said we are all God's children, got the same blood. And one thing that will get us through this is love. You know, put hatred aside. You know, don't look at the color, just look at the person. And everybody's got their own personality, but don't let that personality, you know, bring you down. You just keep your standards, you know, and just show love. When I first come up on the hill and I looked, I said, oh my gosh, it's kudzu. I said, where's the steps, you know? And I said, where's the bathroom? You know, because we had an outside bathroom, and sometimes that's where we would congregate down at the bathroom, just laughing and talking and cutting up, you know. And then just looking up the hill, you know, it just brought back memories, you know. And then when we all got up and started working and I said, I said, it takes a village to do this, you know. And I said, we just gonna consider ourselves as a village. And I said, we're gonna get something done up on this hill.
Wonderful. And you have stuck in here and you have worked and served, and your brother Amos has done the same thing. That's great.